Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of Only a Matter of Time with Miel and Tal. So you already know what time it is, you already know what day of the week it is we are so blessed to be here, humbled, and we're, like I said, we have guests, by the way. We're so appreciative of them, and we're really grateful for you guys to be on the show, share your experiences, your beautiful life, that you contributed, and you allow us to share on camera. So this is AJ, who we've had on a previous episode. We decided to bring him back. We decided to bring him back.
Come on, feature. Come on.
It's like, you made the cut.
And this is
and this is Josh.
Josh and I go way back, and so I'm happy that he's here and was open to sharing his life as well. So
thank you, happy to be here.
Yeah, so I just want to start off it takes a lot of courage.
Yes,
it takes a lot of courage, strength. I think and just what you guys are doing right now is great. So like I said, I'm proud of you guys, and you guys should be proud of yourself for doing this and allowing other people, into your lives.
Yes.
So just want to start off by saying that and acknowledging you guys for doing that. And the topic of discussion this week for this episode is we want to talk about some serious stuff like addiction, depression, anxiety, because just of the tumultuous times that we find ourselves in right now with COVID, and obviously we've had people close to us who have passed away due to COVID or maybe other stuff as well. It's been quite a bit of challenging year this last year, and kind of coming into this year, and it's impacted like we never ever dealt with something like this in history, right? From what we're understanding. So it's kind of like we're learning to navigate, we're learning to adapt to this whole situation, and along with that, we kind of want to talk about this, and so we want to bring them onto onto this episode just to share their experiences, just to help people out there who are may have experienced, who are dealing with drug addiction at the current moment, and don't know where to begin, or they don't seem to find the light at the end of the tunnel. If they don't know where to begin. They don't know a way out.
Yeah.
So here we have these two gentlemen who have found that way out, who continuously on a day in, day out, they make and they strive, they find that inner strength to continue to better themselves on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So, like I said, we just wanted to bring you guys in, and like I said, thank you so much for coming on. So just want to start with you, AJ, kind of like, sharing, your journey with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I just want to start, saying it's just like you said, it's like just even meeting Josh today, like it's just a constant like reminder to me, like nowhere am I even near where I want to be, and I'm still a work in progress, and I still have moments in my life where I do take a step back, but through these tools and this program that I was in, I remember and learned to find my way back on that path. But in saying that, I just my addiction, I've struggled with that for over 14 years, and I think that was that time frame I'll talk about later, because I think that time frame was also what triggered me to start realizing that I needed to make some changes. The amount of years that it was. But it came to a point of time where in those 14 years, my relapses within the year, it kept getting worse and worse as the time went on. And at that moment was 2017 when I was I had to make a change. And my family, it was just I'm not quite sure what was going on with that. I think you could probably be more able to elaborate on that, but I feel like it was like they were just so fed up with seeing how much or how many times it was like I was defrauding them, I was constantly hurting them, I was constantly letting them down, and they were over it. It came to a point where they were just like, I can't do it anymore. They decided to step away and just let God do his work. So I was given an ultimatum: you either go to a program or you're not coming home, because you're not going to be living with us anymore. You can do what you're doing, that's fine, but you're not going to do it here.
Yeah.
And I think that for me, honestly, if it came from anyone else, I don't think it would have triggered something in me. But that message came from you. You know, you texted me. You were like, this is your ultimatum. You got to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what in my heart, because you were the only person that was there for me throughout so many moments in my life where I needed someone.
Yeah.
So for that to happen, I'm like, man, if I lose Miguel, I don't have anyone.
Yeah.
Like, I need to make a change. Like, this is it. That's what I was willing to receive the message, because I'm like, okay, man, like, I really fucked up.
Yeah.
This is it. So after research, we decided on what program we was going to go to for multiple reasons. I think mostly it came from me. Like, I think that's why also it was another thing that it actually
You researched.
it impacted me. Yeah, it impacted me in the right way because I researched it and I made the decision. Yeah, it was brought to me like to my attention, but I ultimately made a decision of where I was going. So this program, it was a faith-based program, and it just I logged online and checked it out, and it's a beautiful 110 acre ranch, and it sounded like a work program. They had a mechanic shop, a wood shop, an office, and you could replace in different places. And I don't know, I just enjoyed what it was about. I'm like, okay, well, it's a work program. I definitely need some direction in that area of my life. Working somewhere or having some sort of responsibility. Something like that would be good for me. And then I also like the fact of how far it was away from home, because I don't think it would have impacted me as much if it was here at home. Because even throughout the program, I called home and I was like, dude, I'm ready to go home. But because it was so far up there, no, you're stuck up there. But I decided on my own will that I was going to stay extra time, and that's what they call aftercare. And that was, once you graduate the program, the graduates could stay in a segregated section of the program, kind of still doing your work program. I had a job out there, my own job, making my own money, saving, learn to budget, learn to cope with life with so many other tools that they gave me, and I think we're going to touch base on that later. But, so I decided to stay longer. So I think the time frame was about a year to 6 months that I stayed, and then finally one day I woke up and I kind of was already asking God, if you will, like I was already asking like questions like, when will I be ready? And give me a sign of when it is the time for me to go home. I'm feeling like it's coming, but I'm not sure, and I don't want to make that decision on my own, because obviously making decisions on my own, look where that, you know what I mean? So
I need some help.
I need some help, your guidance. But the reason I stayed in the program was because that extra time frame was the closer I got to graduation. I think it was around my 9th month is where I started really noticing like past students coming back and relapsing. And I think the one that hit me the hardest was the intake counselor. He had graduated the program. So everyone in the program is working, and you can work in the office, and he was the intake counselor. And so he ended up, he was the first person that picked up the phone when I dialed the very first time after, getting the phone off the internet. And he was the one that picked up that phone. So, I immediately made a connection with him. So, and then he received me when I got there. So immediately, just like my whole program, he was like a friend, So when he came back into the program on a huge relapse, I was like, I gotta make a choice. I don't want it to be me, I wasted these 12 months. I can't let these 12 months go to waste. If I don't want to end up back here, this is horrible. There's so many, I don't want to go through this again. And that's when I was like, okay, maybe I'm going to start thinking about aftercare, because I already knew they start talking to you about the 8th month or so about aftercare and all your other choices that you can make. And I was like, okay, maybe I should listen to my counselors about staying here a little bit longer, and that's why I made that decision. And then he was just one out of multiple people. I think I even saw one of, he was 18 years old. No, 20, he was 21 years old. He came from a wealthy family. He was there 3-4 months into the program. He decided to leave, and his folks came over to the program to let us know that he had passed away from an overdose. And all these other things that I got to see and hear just impacts you. Seeing people die. I'm like, this good-looking 21-year-old kid had the world ahead of him. And I need to make a decision and that really shifted my thinking. So that was my experience.
But even even like I remember you telling me you had like a little brother there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I remember. You want to share
Yeah,
that?
yeah. So in the program you get to, once you get to a certain month, I think it's like the fifth month, and they start. And if you're a good student, you're upholding the rules, you're doing what you got to do, staying away from trouble. You can become a what do they call it? I can't remember what it is.
Almost like a big brother.
Yeah, like exactly. That's exactly what they call it. Actually, you're a big brother. Yeah, you're a big brother. So then new kids coming in, so that they feel welcome, and you're not left alone in the dining hall or in certain areas. You can teach them like where everything's at and all the rules and regulations and stuff like that. Yeah, they pair you with a big brother coming into the program. I still remember my big brother, like he was just. Man, the kid was a hot mess, but he just wasn't. Like it was tough because he was so young. He was like 18 years old.
Yeah.
I want to say, maybe even 17. But he just didn't stick with the program. He just left and got it. I mean, his parents came out later and they just couldn't find him, and they didn't know his whereabouts. And then one of them actually, one of my little brother, maybe it was my little brother, but one of the he's in jail, prison because he murdered someone. Leaving the program prematurely. Like these are the kinds of situations that was like, okay, dang, like I'm staying for a little bit.
Yeah.
That's cool. And I kind of just want to say that I'm glad that you were able to make that decision and not like jump the gun and seeing, okay, I've been here, it's time, 12 months, like I'm out of here, it's time for me to go. You're able to take a step back, analyze your situation and kind of assess, and I feel like that takes a lot of self-reflection and kind of being honest with yourself and almost holding yourself accountable. Am I ready? Like, do I feel equipped enough? Do I have the tools enough to like be able to kind of? Because it's almost like you're in a sense that I'm not gonna call it prison, but it's like you're kind of stripped away from society.
Yeah, you're in a bubble.
You're in a bubble.
Absolutely.
Kind of teaching you, helping you kind of assess your situation. Basically going to rehab, whatever we explain what you just did, and then kind of throw it, and then it comes to a point where you have to be assimilated back.
Yeah.
Like you said, I feel like if you jump the gun too soon, there's the probability that you're gonna relapse.
Yeah, that extra time, it was more like kind of in between because it was like I was still in the program, but I wasn't like I didn't have to I wasn't tied to the program anymore. Like I had my own job.
Yeah.
You leave the program, and I felt like the longer I was away from the program, but still in the program, that was kind of like slowly getting me back into society instead of it like
Just
graduating from the program and then boom, you're in the society and you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do?
So you would say for you, like the aftercare was
essential.
It was essential.
Absolutely, it was like it was definitely like best decision I've ever made in my life to do that.
What you Josh?
Well, I started drugs when I was, I would say maybe like 14 when I really started getting into really bad drugs. And then after that, it was bad choice after bad choice. And eventually I never really had a good relationship at home, so I just ended up being in the streets. And you try to keep your cool when you're young and you're gay, you have people to basically pay for your things, and that's kind of like what I did until you don't, until you kind of like hit rock bottom. And so about 3 years back, I just ended up losing my mind. It wasn't so much like my health, but I seriously just like went crazy. Like I started screaming at people, thinking everybody was going against me. I was literally like the persons that you see screaming at people like in the corner without shoes. I had no shoes. Hadn't taken a shower in over a week. I did not care how I looked, how I smelled, you would see me like taking a shit like in the back of a bush.
That's crazy, yeah.
So, one day I was really, really hungry, and I just decided to go to my mom's house and ask her for food. and she took me to go get shoes, and she took me to Denny's, and she just told me, you know, what needs to happen, like what. I think everybody was just really afraid of me because I was so defensive, and so nobody could really penetrate through my head. You know, they were just like, it's not worth talking to him because he's not gonna listen, kind of thing. So I think in that point it was just like a window period, you know, where I was just vulnerable, and I just told her I was sad and I couldn't get out of this sadness, and I just felt so lost and incomplete. And I told her I just need to find a higher power to help me, because this will probably be my last year, because I'm doing things that I would never thought I would do. And so after that, you know, she took me in for about a week, and you know, when you're coming off of all kinds of drugs, I would sleepwalk, I would cuss while I was like asleep. I told my mom one time that I was gonna kill her. I had no idea, like I don't even remember that. But my brother has it on video actually. And it's just like crazy things where my mom was scared to like even me being there, you know? And so one day, I'm walking her dogs, and I'm just like, I just feel like my mind wasn't right. And that's one thing that I wanted to get back was my clarity. And so I just started to pray to God, and I just told him like, I really need help. Like I'm just so tired. And so that night, my mom took me to a church that's right by the house. And she said, hey, I think they have some like, you know, a rehab center or something that they might be able to help you. And so, you know, at this time, I'm still really nervous around people. I couldn't be around people. I would sweat. I would start like, I couldn't be around any crowds. And so I told her I'd give it a shot. I went in there, and then I just couldn't breathe. So then I had to walk out. But in that time, I think I lasted there like 30 minutes. And in that time, some guy came out and asked me, hey, haven't seen you around. You know, so I was like, oh, I'm just here to check things out. He's like, do you need any help? And obviously, I mean, I looked shut out. Really bad.
Obviously. Like, the reason why you came to me. Yeah, but I really don't need help. Yeah.
So I told him, yeah, you know, I'm just, I told him I'm gay, and, you know, I have an addiction, and I'm like heartbroken, and I have no will to live. I don't want to be here. I don't even know what my purpose is in life, you know, so you think you can help me?
Yeah.
And he's all like, I can't help you, but God can help you. So he gave me a number to the home, and so I kept the business card, and then that night I went again, because when I was coming down, I just felt like I couldn't sleep, or I would lay down, I would be sleepy, and then I lay down, and then all these thoughts would go in my head, so I'm like, I need to take a walk. So I would take the dog to kind of reassure my mom that I wasn't gonna like disappear.
Yeah.
You know? So every time I leave the house, I would have to take the dog.
Coming back.
So, you know, this guy, before I left, actually told me, you know what you are is, you're just like a rock, you know, with all these jagged edges, and God is like the stream that's going to make you smooth. But, you know, that takes time, you know, so, you know, just make sure you dunk yourself in the water. And I'm like, okay, I got it.
Did he say, I thought it share the story, because this is the one that impacted me when you told me, like he said you just don't have joy. You lost your joy.
Oh, yeah. That's the thing is that that's what he told me is that I had lost. Well, I told him I had no joy, I had no happiness, and so he told me he'll return that. Like he'll restore you even better than what you were, or even better than what you think in your head. So that kind of like left me. He planted a seed in my head, and I just kept on thinking about that whole stream. And I'm walking the dog, and I see this rock on the floor, right? And it's a smooth rock, but it's at night, so I'm like, I was like, when you're in a desperate situation and you're at rock bottom, you look for any type of like sign.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so funny. Like, we were just talking about smooth rock. Right? So I'm like walking with the dog, and he does his business, and I walk back, and I'm like, I'm gonna pick up the rock. So I pick it up, and I put it in my pocket, and it's like kind of like it has like dirt and all that stuff in it. And so I get home, I'm like, Mom, that guy that I told you that was telling me about the rock and how I'm a rock and how God is gonna smooth me out.
She's like, all shit.
Yeah. I was like, I found this rock. She's like, that's awesome. She's like, yeah, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna like, wash it out, and then like I'm gonna keep it to remind me, like. And so while I'm washing out the rock, there was a great joy on it. And
that's what I was saying. Like,
that's crazy, bro.
Yeah.
What?
That's crazy. Yeah.
I still have the rock,
Yeah.
and I was just that
was the moment where you're like, I need.
Wow.
Yeah. I was like, we need to go to this home.
Yeah.
So the next day.
Amazing story. I shook. I was like, shook. I was like that is the sign I'm gonna hit you with this fucking rock.
That can't be it.
Yeah. He's like, that's not the sign. I'm gonna get another rock. No, that was an amazing story. I'm glad I was hoping you would share that. So that was good, yeah.
Yeah, so on the 23rd of December 2018, that's when I checked into that home. And I just went into it thinking that I was gonna maybe fail because you have so many things working against you, especially when it comes to a spiritual based home where, you kind of, this is being gay.
It's already,
something that's like natural to me. It's who we are. So when I walked in there, when I went in there, I just really put everything that I thought I was aside and just focused on my relationship with God. And then regardless of like what was going on, what opinions were being said, my focus was it wasn't even to get clean, it was more to just build a relationship with God so that I knew that everything else would fall into place after that. So it did, and I mean, I tried so many times throughout my 20 years of addiction to quit, to save relationships, to save jobs, to just like hold on to normality or some type of normality that came to my life, at that time, and I just couldn't hold on to it because, I just put that in priority before anything else. And so as a result, I ended up losing everything. Literally everything, even my sanity. And so when my clarity got restored, I think that's when I just really, my gratefulness really kicked in, because I've seen people in my situation where they never really
come back
fully.
Yeah.
And I mean, sometimes I can tell I'm a little off.
But you're aware of it. You're good. You're good. So oh my gosh, thank you guys for sharing that. And I think it's so impactful. Like it's a really emotional. This is like really emotional for me. Like to hear and to because I feel like this subject, we all have somebody, family, even ourselves, or just friends that we all know, or gone through or seen, and so it's kind of like bringing up, it's kind of seeing, addressing it and talking about it, because this is not something I feel like within the last few years is now people are sitting down and actually talking about it. Now they're talking about mental health. Now they're talking about, you know what I'm saying? Like it's back in the day. That's why a lot of my aunts or uncles and stuff like that were still battling with it, because I don't think they were really where it's at right now, where they could talk about it. You know what I'm saying? Like what we're doing now. You know what I'm saying? Like we're really sitting down and really, like, we really are going to like sit here and talk about like and take it in, like all the struggles, like from growing up, it was always like, oh, you're fine, it's in your head, like, you know what I'm saying, like that's what we grew up with, like that's what I was always told, like it was just in your head, and that does something to people that are dealing with it, with that, and so you guys sharing that, and it's just, and sharing your story is amazing. And I guess like the next question we want to ask is like, since leaving, what did you guys take away from the program, for each of you guys? Like it could be one thing or a few things, but what was like the big thing that you guys get taken away from it, and you guys are probably even still using to this day,
Like tools?
Yeah,
Tools
what did the program teach you?
Yeah, there you go.
Like, what was your biggest takeaway that you kind of like,
So
a
many
couple
things.
things.
I mean, like my whole life is structured around all the tools I learned there. Like, I mean, even like through my program, man, dude, I remember like when you go into the program, you're given a sheet. At least the program I went to, you're given a sheet, and it has little boxes, and it's got like different levels of like how do you say that? Like when you break a rule, it had different levels of like depending on the rule. It was like you really broke a bad rule, or you broke whatever it was, but whatever rule you broke,
They will like reprimand you.
Yeah, that. So, I mean, in the moment, I'm like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like, treated like a child. And it's like, well, then maybe I needed to be treated like a child. You know what I mean? But like in that moment, you're like, this is so stupid. Like, if you raise your voice or talk, curse, you get your sheet pulled and they tab you on it, and then like you lose your privileges. You can't have coffee. You can't, have free time.
Oh, so they take away your privilege.
So like free time is like your only privilege, and it's like, okay, like because you're always another one of those things that you learn there is like the because you're on a schedule, like from the moment you wake up, from the moment you gotta be in prayer, from the moment you gotta be in dinner hall, in class, and there's like no breaks in between until your free time. So if you break a rule and you lose your free time, you have nothing to look forward to. You know what I mean? So like now leaving the program, I'm like, dude, all that stuff I needed, like, you know what I mean? Like that was one of the tools, like, having someone to hold me accountable for me, breaking a rule or whatever, you know what I mean? Being held accountable, that was one of the things that was like, man, this is very hard for me. I remember one time I flipped out because they gave us these tortillas. Like, it was just a tortilla, but
it was more than a tortilla.
But it was more than a tortilla. A nasty style tortilla, but it was given to me 3 times in a row. I flipped the fuck out. I threw the tray, and I'm like, why am I angry about a tortilla? You know what I mean? But that was just like, and then I got reprimanded for it big time because I cursed. I threw my tray, and it was like, man, this is just like, it was more than that. Like in that moment, I wanted to leave. I didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
And that was just,
you were trying to find an excuse.
To like.
So act out as much as you can to get kicked out. Yeah.
Yes, that. So obviously it didn't work.
Yeah, exactly. So shout out, eat that tortilla.
Yeah, but like, you know what I mean? Like now, in my life, that's a tool because it's like, I gotta think about just a decision. If I'm upset. If I'm angry, like I gotta think about like what's gonna be my reaction to this moment. I mean, I still have my moments, I'm not gonna say I'm perfect, but I'm definitely like, okay, like is this even worth me
flipping out?
You know what I mean? Like I gotta learn to choose my battles. You know what I mean? Even in life, even constantly this week, I've been going through that, like where I'm like, okay, is this the battle I want to choose? I'm gonna let it go. You know what I mean? Or another tool was like the schedule, like the time management. Like you're on a constant schedule. Like I still to this day use that. It's literally one of my foundations for my day. Like I wake up early. I wake up at an hour early before I clock in, and I work from home. But I do that because I get a shower, and I go. And just my shower to me, that's a spiritual event. That's a healing thing for me. Like it's like I don't want to take that sludge that I have on me from the prior day into my next day. So I wake up and I shower and I get it off of me. Yeah. So I can start my day fresh and new. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's my form of meditation.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like. And I won't start my day. If I do start my day, like even like today when I went to the gym, I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna take this. I didn't want to take that sludge because even my people have been like, why do you shower before you go?
Well,
because I'm not gonna go start my day.
I didn't ask, but I was like, I'm sure it's a reason. Yeah.
I would start my day with that filth from the day before and bring it into my new day. You know what I mean? It's a mental thing for me.
Yeah.
And just the way I structure my day, my meals, the day, when I have them, what I'm having. When I clock out of work, I gotta go to the gym because if I don't go to the gym or I don't keep myself active after work, I'm like, that's so long before bedtime. Like I need to keep myself busy, and that was one of the tools that they taught us. Like you gotta replace your habits with good habits, and things like that. Meet new people, meet friends that are gonna guide you or that have the same likes and that are not addicts. Friends that are gonna encourage you, which is this group, and so what's another tool that I learned?
I also think I think even with our previous conversation, what you also learned was to also even have if something doesn't work out, like if something your reaction to like okay if it didn't work out, if that plan didn't work or if something changed. You adjusted. You malleable. Yeah.
Be malleable.
Yes.
That's a huge one for the program. Like making sure, you're on your toes all the time because you could be put in one place and then all of a sudden you're not going to be in the office in your condition. You're going to be out in the wood shop that's 100 degrees because the location we were in.
So triggered.
But you know what I mean? You have to be and just let it go and just let go and let God. Let go and let God. You gotta let. If you're struggling with it, there's a reason for it. So whatever that struggle is, work through it. And don't pout, don't get angry. You need to take that to the altar. Go take that to God, whatever you're going through. And that's the kind of mentality they place you in. That was a good one. That's a really good one. I forget about that.
We just had that conversation.
Yeah, and another one that I recently used, a tool was, if I'm going through some kind of depression or I encounter just life isn't going the way I expected. I'm going through some sort of emotional shift because it's not always depression. Sometimes it's sadness or whatever it is. I gotta let myself, feel it, process it instead of pushing it under the rug or ignoring it and then trying to continue life and forgetting the fact that I just went into something, traumatic or whatever emotion I was going through. Let myself feel it. I let myself feel it recently for a few days, and okay, cool. I'm sad, but I'm let it happen for a couple of days. But I gotta remember to get back into my routine, and I did. I did exactly that. I gave myself 3 days. On the third day, boom, it's okay, I'm over it. Let's go. Let's get back to my routine. I'm done feeling sad. Let's move forward. Yeah. And that was
one question for you. What is your biggest challenge now?
My biggest challenge now. Good one.
Your biggest blockage right now that you're dealing with and you kind of processing through.
So, that's something I gotta take to me.
Okay.
That's a bad therapist.
When you think about that, and then you take your takeaway or what you took away from the program.
One thing that I took away from the program was just learning to be grateful for the little things like a shower and being able to have a blanket. When I was in the streets, it was in that time where it rained a lot. It was super cold, so I remember breaking into pool houses, and I remember one time I slept in a jacuzzi because I was so cold, and just being in the situation where little things that normally I would have taken for granted or I took for granted for so many years, I was so grateful for it. And then it just kind of shifted my mind, and I learned to be patient with people that, you know, were patient with me, how God was patient with me, you know, just, you know, just really focused on the Bible and just trying to emulate what Jesus did, you know, show love. And that's like the priority, is just to show love, and regardless of who you meet or what you've been through, you know, because I was in a home where it wasn't really structured like yours. It was, people were getting high, you know, in the room secretly offering you drugs, even like the people that were running it. It was more like,
Wow.
so this place was more like, if you wanted to get clean,
You have
to put in the effort, you know, so that's basically what I was in. And I mean, a lot of people do walk in there focused and trying to get clean and walk out of there clean, and others, they don't, you know, so.
What kept you?
My relationship with God and my focus on God, and the fact that like I knew that I needed to see myself in a different way, you know, and I definitely didn't want to go back to
The streets.
yeah, you know, and the choices that I made. And so that's what kept me more focused, is the fact that I just, you know, I was really over it. I was so done with like being miserable and feeling. That's basically what kept me more focused. And then when I left the program, I think for my program every morning, like I just thank God for the little things. You know, the fact that like I have like a twin bed that's like stuck in a corner somewhere in my mom's house, and I'm so grateful for the fact that like I have this little space for myself where I can just come to and just like meditate and just kind of like, I don't even have a door, you know, but it's just like, I'm just so grateful for it, for the fact that God took me out of where I was at.
How's the relationship with your mom? Like now?
That's a huge thing. My relationship with my family has like, man, it's so good now. It's completely, I mean, God had restored all my relationships with my aunts, my cousins. Everybody was angry, you know, and you have reason to be, you know, so my first year when I got clean, I threw a birthday party at the park, and I wrote everybody a letter and I just read it to them. And it was like an apology for everything that I've done, and I put specifics in there for each person that I remember.
Yeah, awesome.
And so that kind of like started the whole healing. And now it's just like, it's awesome. Like they're my best friends, you know, my family. So.
Yeah, I see you guys like traveling a lot.
Oh yeah, we do that together.
Yeah.
They're your support system.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would never be able to be in a car for 12
So
hours.
yeah. Before.
Oh my
That's
gosh,
good.
I didn't remember those days. Yeah, I can't even be in the same room as my family.
So I did want to mention like the word that keeps coming like out of, that keep popping up for me, is focus. Yeah. So I feel like you guys wouldn't be here or be able to achieve what you wanted, which is sobriety, if it wasn't for focus. Because I know you keep mentioning it, Josh, like when you were in and like you were focused, like your main objective was to get sober. And especially with the kind of the conditions you were in, I didn't know that there was that kind of it was like a trap house where but that even took a lot more
Absolutely.
like just to stay focused.
Yeah.
You know, it's like to me, I feel like wow, they're like literally giving it to you, and this is supposed to be a face up, and you were able to push through that. That's
amazing.
It's amazing.
It shows willpower.
Yeah.
Which I feel like it's
And that's when you know you got it. But you're like, I was just tired. I had enough.
Yeah.
And I was like, perfect. That was good. So.
I think that's something that everybody should really focus on, especially drug addicts. And if you're over it, then you're over
Do something.
it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And follow through.
Follow through.
It is like, it's put money on yourself. You know, because I was over it many times when I said it, and I never went after it.
Yeah.
You know, so.
What got you to finally go after it?
You know, so I was on Grindr. At like 3 o'clock in the morning. So, you know, I never put my face on because, you know, I don't know, whatever. So, there's this guy that I ended up talking to, and he just like, he offered me money. You know, once I sent him my picture, and I was just like, oh, not that ugly.
Are you giving me money?
So, you know,
yeah.
so I was like, and I went over there, and yeah, I had sex for money, and I got paid $400. And when I was done and I walked out, I just felt like a lower level of disgustness with myself.
Yeah.
Like this, like, it was just, I don't know, it was just like this sinking feeling. I had, like, whatever good I had left inside me just like went out. And I was like, I felt so dirty. That was such a horrible feeling. I never want to feel like that ever again. And so after that, I was like, when I started, I think it was like 2 days later after I got high, then I went to my mom's house.
Yeah. that's what triggered you. You just went so hard to where that's where it was, and then you ended up at your mom's.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, thank you. That's tough. So much. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you both for your transparency and just for your honesty. Yeah. And for your courage to be able to, you know, just share all that and stuff. One thing I did want to ask is, just because I know, you know, just from my experience, with you, kind of like trying to get you or trying to encourage you to seek out a program, is I don't know if our approach was the best at times. So kind of like from your perspective, talking to a drug addict, how would you try to like encourage them and inspire them to seek help?
Because I feel like
you know what I'm saying?
I love how you said that because family members and we've had the intervention sometimes it could come off so hard, or like, you know what I'm saying, like where it's not processing with you guys, right? Or with that, or just with people, right? That's where where it's not processing. It's like bad timing. Like, well, what is it? Like, what is it exactly that you want to share? Like, I guess one, acknowledge that like you understand where they're at when it comes to family members trying to do like intervention, because I do feel like sometimes those interventions just make it worse, like depending on how their approach was, what was said.
Yeah, exactly.
And just the pushiness of it, right?
Because I feel like oftentimes it comes more as a preacher, in like a preacher tone, like this is what you gotta do, or you know what I'm saying? And as opposed to kind of like what I've learned is if you really want someone to do something, is you first have to empathize.
Yeah.
Right. And kind of like, because obviously you have these walls up, and if you come at someone from like that preacher type of perspective, you're not gonna get through that, because they're like, dude, I heard that shit already.
Like for your guys'
you know
example,
what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying.
For your guys' example, both your guys' example, you guys did. It wasn't an intervention that came.
Yeah,
it was someone like you, like because of your guys, your brothers, but also the how much love and respect because you were there for him. It took that one text.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, I don't know if I could answer that question because it's like when someone's lost an addiction, it's like no matter what the person. Like, I had so many people talk to me. I had pastors. I had pastors that were addicts or just different types of people that my parents would get to talk to me, or people that just saw that I was struggling and be like, dude, you need help? What do you need? Like, but I mean, when you're lost in addiction, like, I don't think that no one can say anything to change your mind or to like penetrate your head. It has to. I mean, it's like almost like a combination of like timing, and then it comes from within you. Like you're just like, and it just merges at the right exact time. You know what I mean? Like you're just, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's so hard to
so
answer that
that
question,
makes a lot of sense,
but for me, what I can say is like, when if you do have someone struggling, I mean, I think for me, the one thing that did impact me was like, I mean, you were pretty much the only person that could ever impact that, because you were just always so kind, and you weren't there to like judge me. You weren't there to ask. I don't think you even asked me about it sometimes. You were just there. Period. You were just there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even in moments in my when I had the biggest relapses, I think you knew, but you just were there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You were just there, and you were just my brother. Period.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, that's the best thing you can do for someone that's struggling with an addiction. Is just be there, be present in that moment for them.
Because eventually that moment will happen.
At least that was my experience. You know, that's what impacted
and then
me.
for you, like even for your mom, like you've been there. You already actually had an idea how it may go, right? But for whatever reason, that particular time, she actually was like, "I'm not gonna let you in, but I'm gonna take you out." Versus like go away. You know what I'm saying? Like there was something in that particular moment, even for her. I don't even know she even knew that was gonna happen, right? Like I don't even know. Like that's crazy. But it was that moment you were just like, okay, like, are you gonna take me to eat? Cool. She got your shoes. Okay, cool. Like it was like different, right, from the other times that you may have. You actually told me like you were hoping that she wasn't there. That it was just gonna be your brother.
Yeah.
You were like, yeah. He was like, I hope I go brother. And then she ends up opening the door. But then that's where I see stepping back for you. It's like when you see like God working. It comes when you least expect it. It comes in moments that you are just like, you already have in mind how you're thinking this is how it's gonna go, but then it's like he comes through and it's like it's a test. It's a
You know what I'm thinking, Josh? Is remember that story of the Samaritan woman where God comes to the well? It's like it's that same. It's the Samaritan woman. I mean, don't quote me on this because I mean.
But the story time,
but I remember that story. I loved it. It was like a Samaritan woman
at
the well, and I think she was being unfaithful to her husband, or she was just like sleeping around.
Yeah, she wasn't married, but she was sleeping around, right?
5 times before.
Yeah, very
and then God came and just extended his kindness and wasn't judging her. And I think from if I remember correctly from where we were studying it, it was like in those times, like for a Jewish to talk to a Samaritan, it was like absolutely.
That's why they won't walk on separate sides.
Absolutely, absolutely. And like so for him to do that, like it was just like she knew that and she knew what was happening. It was just kindness, and this is like the same thing for me. Like it was just being present in time. That's
same thing as like the washing the feet. It's the same. Yeah. It's that. It's very that. Like it's that situation with that gesture.
Yeah.
It's something so small. A text message, taking you to eat and giving you shoes, and you guys were already. I felt like you guys were already feeling you were tired already. So I think it was just a matter of.
It's kind of like being a lighthouse.
Yeah.
In the darkness.
Yeah. And that's what I've come to realize is like you as human beings is we build off connections. Is that we have to be a lighthouse for those that are lost and realize that sometimes people just want you to just share that moment with them without expecting anything. And I feel like that's what unconditional love is really getting down to the root of it. Is you don't know half the battles that someone's really dealing with. Not even just a little bit. Because I can be talking to you, and you may not even be fully honest with me. And there's you can be living a whole different life at home that I may not even know. But just if I share this moment with you where I'm completely just open and loving and compassionate and pathetic, you know what I'm saying? Just as these stories that you guys shared and these little stories is when you're able to do that, these small acts of kindness, I feel like that's what just triggers someone and they're like, wait, I want that. Like I want what that person's like. What are you smoking, dog? Like, what is it? Like, what is it in your heart that's causing you to do this? Which is I'm lacking in my life. That you have this joy that you're vibrating as I want to vibrate on your level. and you don't even need to say shit. You don't even proselytize and preach to that person.
Yeah. You don't.
But just be with them.
It's just like by example. You're just there by example and just exactly doing like you said. You were just being a brother. Like there was nothing. Yeah. You weren't like going down his throat about the stuff. You were just there.
Yeah.
And he felt that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's like, yeah. That I feel like that what breaks that resonates with the people. You know.
Yeah.
It's just like the right antidote for what you're feeling.
Yeah.
Because you're, your addiction, you're going through so many emotions like anger, sadness, resentment.
Yeah.
And it's just like someone extending you a kindness, a gesture. And
Yeah.
you're like, you wouldn't expect it because you're struggling so hard. And it's just like, oh my god, it's like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think we all go through, like, as addicts, especially being an addict for many years, you go through, like, merges or window periods, is what I call them, where the window opens and you see clearly what you need to get out of and the problems that you have. And then that's the time when you reach out to whoever you trust. But that window closes over a certain amount of time, maybe an hour or two, sometimes it lasts minutes. And in that time, whoever's being called needs to really act quickly, you know? And
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like that. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I went through many of those, many of those window periods, but
The window that
You didn't take it before you close it, yeah.
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 Because I have people right now in my life where like I see them from afar, like a distance, and I'm like I see them and I know like I look at them and I'm like, you're not happy, but I'm not gonna tell you that. I'm not gonna tell you what to do because I'm not in a position to tell you what to do. You know what I'm saying? Is if I do that, it's like, what are you gonna gain from it? You're not getting anything from it because it's just gonna go one through one ear, out the other.
Because they didn't initiate it.
Because you didn't initiate it. Like from what you guys are saying, it has to come from your own will and your own volition. Because otherwise, it isn't. It's like you have to hit that rock bottom. And you just like, there's no way out but up.
Yeah.
Because if you go any further, it's like you're gonna be 10 feet under the ground. And that's facts. Like it's either that or you go up. And so like I see that, and like one thing what I've learned to do is like just be present, like you said, just be present with them, and just I'll kind of like ask them questions like how you doing, like kind of dig deep, trying to kind of open them up, like gain their trust. And just by doing that, then that's when you help them gain perspective without you imposing any of your ideas or any of your beliefs, but kind of questioning their own beliefs at the moment and realize, and kind of getting to see like, if like you kind of get them to see deeper, like are my habits like really working for me, or like is this current belief that I have working for me, or is it working against me? So like once you plant that seed, and you simply ask them questions. That's why we always tell people here, like when you're in, when you have a moment when you're in communion with your friends, ask thought-provoking questions to get them to think differently, open up their perspective. And I heard this quote. It's from what's his name, Joe Rogan. Mm-hmm. He says our minds are like parachutes. Yeah, they're meant to be open. So for me, it's like it's just like a breath. It just brings me so much clarity just to hear your stories and your perspective, and it gives me more drive, gives me motivation to continue to push towards whatever goals that I have for myself. Because it's like, dude, you like just seeing where you guys are at. I was like, you guys can get out of that. It's like there's no telling what what you can do as an individual, what you can do as an individual, what potential you have.
Yeah,
potential if you're able to get from that to where you are.
And I feel like that's why it's good to also have you guys on here too, for whoever's watching, whoever this reaches to see there's a face to it, and see like, oh, that's my story. That's what I'm saying, like, and I appreciate you guys, sharing that, because we're very much that. We're very much like putting this out there, and
for the whole internet.
But yeah. it's very Instagram and
It's very raw, very like.
very vulnerable.
It
Yeah.
took a lot for it. At least for me, I was
yes.
like,
No,
man,
dude. No, that's. And we've been. I've been making sure.
I'm still imperfect. Like I've never been.
Right, and that's part two. It's like again. That's why I feel also too. It's like yes, you guys came through out of the other side, but it's still every day. It's every day. It's the everyday thing. Like everyone, you have your schedules. You have your. I love like earlier. You have pulled out.
Yeah.
You know, like I was like yes, like you pulled out something. You have
Yeah.
it written down on your phone. To this is what I do if if I find myself in these moments. Like that's those stuff is like gold to share with other people. I mean, even myself. Like and so.
And can you guys share a little bit of that? Like what is it you do when you find yourself in those moments where you need that little extra push, a little motivation to kind of like maybe you feel triggered or whatever.
Man, so many things like when I need an extra motivation. You know what's crazy is you're probably not going to remember this, but remember he'd given me a car when I was struggling hardcore.
A card.
A car, like an actual car.
How can you not remember giving you a car?
Not that
A car?
What he said that it's still into my head this day. No, he remembers that, but like that's talking about gestures. Like that was the ultimate gesture for me. Like I was struggling. I had a relapse. I didn't have a car. I didn't have anything. I didn't have money saved up to purchase a car. But he had just bought a new car, and his old car he gave that to me. He's like, just keep it. And that thing was my favorite car that I rode it till the wheels fell off. Literally, the wheels fell off of that thing.
Gear was all fucking.
But like that was like it went beyond just like being a physical car.
Right.
It was like every time I got into the car, I remembered like things.
You were feeling
grateful for my brother. Yeah. So grateful for it. But I mean. And even then, like I still struggled after that long time period, but it was like these little things that were being placed in my life.
It was like chipping,
little gestures, little gestures, just like
chip.
But you told me we were talking in the car. I was probably super high as fuck, but we were I was telling you about what I was gonna do. I was gonna do this. I was gonna do that. I was gonna start working out. I was gonna do this. And you're like, dude, just stop talking about it and be about it. And to this day, I kid you not, to this day when I want to get like, I'm like, dude, I don't want to go to the gym today. I'm like, don't stop talking about it, just be about it. And like, even when I hear people saying stuff, I'm like, in my head, obviously I don't tell them, but I'm thinking, like, you just gotta stop talking about it and be about it.
Yeah.
And that's it, just get up and do it. Like, that's one of the things that like I constantly remember, is like you telling me that. Do you even remember? I don't know if you remember those words.
But that's something you would say.
Something you would say. So many.
Like, just shut up, just do it. Like, do it.
Stop talking about it. Yeah, I'm sick of hearing you. Just shut up and do it.
I always say like my new favorite thing is
You posted it.
add nothing to it, but to do it. And it's true, man. Like if you find yourself where you like kind of don't know what to do, just do something. Like whatever it is, it can be. The idea may be so stupid to you, but just think about like I was listening to earlier this week. One of the co-owners of Netflix, one of the co-CEOs. He was a co-CEO at one point. And he talks about, he's like, yeah, when we first brought, Netflix, that deal Netflix, we were laughed at. Everyone thought it was fucking stupid, like it would never succeed. And look how profitable it is now.
Yeah.
It's all it takes is just putting that thought into action. Yeah. And like you said, like you guys were focused on your objective. When you're focused on something, that energy is going to create into, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
When you put focus and concentration.
Yeah.
But also, I want to make sure like it's not a switch. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I think if you guys understand what I'm saying, like I understand the mindset. It's like sometimes certain things are not like a switch where I'm like it's a switch that we have to like pull from.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but then when you get that clarity, or when you put in the work, where you put in stay focused, and then eventually it becomes a switch. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you mean, and it's all. I'm glad that you brought that up because it's all about small actions.
Yes.
Small actions, big fucking priority.
Yes. Yeah.
What I mean by that is like if for example, you wanted to get clean, start off by don't think about. You obviously want to think about getting clean. That's your big goal eventually. But for today, just think about doing one thing, one small action that will get you closer to getting clean. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And just focus, and once you gain momentum, you're gonna get motivation because you start seeing like, okay, now I'm doing these small actions or just start compounding, and eventually you start looking down the road. You're like, well, I'm closer to getting to where I am at now, and then you look back, you're gonna see I came all this way.
Yeah.
But just keep focusing on those small actions, and those small actions help you gain motivation and traction. If you find yourself stagnant, and like you said, where you can't fully turn on that switch, you can't flip that switch. Well, guess what? You just gain motivation to just fucking flip that switch and just go on.
I think for me, keeping myself, in the Bible, I don't know if you guys heard the story of, I think it was Paul and Peter when he comes out of the water, where Jesus is walking on water.
Yes,
And then
You just have to talk to me about this.
Yeah.
yeah, and then he just asked Jesus if he could walk, and Jesus is like, come over. So he gets on the water and he's looking at Jesus, but the storm around him, he starts to look to the side, and then he starts to sink. And for me, it's like, I've tried so many things to get clean. I did schedules, I did programs, I did everything under the sun that I could think of. And nowhere could I find something that worked for me except keeping my eyes focused on God.
Yeah.
And so some people are stronger, some people are, have that strength where they could just leave an addiction and don't look back. I'm nowhere near that. So I have to keep my eyes focused on what's important.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And that he's saying that because it's it's so important to remember that there's no formula.
There's no formula.
Which is crazy because we were just talking about this because that's why I'm my counselor. That's why I have a counselor for myself, because personally, the AA, certain things, certain programs, I was just like,
It's not for you.
Not for me.
Yeah.
Not for me. I mean, if it works for you, by all means, do it. I love that. Continue with what you're doing. But for just certain programs didn't work for me. So, there's no one formula. Everyone's so different. Everybody comes from different backgrounds. Everyone, has been through different, traumatic events that has to do with what's gonna work for you, what formula is gonna work for you.
Exactly. And I'm glad you brought that up, because it is the formula that works for me can work for me. It could probably not work for him. It could not work for me. And for example, like you said, what helped you stay focused on the right track was God.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you brought up the story, because I remember I brought that up to you because I was talking about faith, because I was reading this book, and I was actually listening to an audiobook, and he's talking about having faith, and that story came up where he was talking about Peter, or God calling out to Peter, like, hey, come, you can walk on water too. But then what people don't realize is the reason why Peter started sinking is because he started losing faith in himself and in God.
Yeah. And
he started having doubt, and his insecurity started coming in, and he's like, well, I don't think I can do this, and that's when he said,
when God said, just come.
Just come. Yeah. Just trust in me and trust in yourself.
Yeah.
Because I reside in you to come, and you can do the same as I have shown you.
It's a powerful story.
Amen.
Yeah, it is a very powerful story. I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah. So, good
But
shit, guys. Yeah.
Thank you so much once again, guys. I feel like this was a really, really, really good conversation.
Great to meet you.
Yeah, very, very happy that we got to meet and we crossed paths.
Yeah.
I did want to say one thing, and I feel like, and this is not just for people who are going through drug addiction, who deal with anxiety. This is for everyone. A reminder that we are not broken. We often think we are. Find ourselves I'm broken. We're not. We're not broken. We're perfect the way we are. We're meant to be the way we are. We go through these challenges in life. It's because we're shedding. We're shedding our karma. We're shedding to reach to our most inner and deepest self that God is trying to pull out. I'm trying to get the best.
Smooth you out.
Smooth you out. He's trying to make you too smooth.
No, very fast.
So if you ever find yourself, you're feeling like I'm broken, it's you're not broken. You're just you're just being smoothed out, like you said. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this episode. I know it's probably pretty long, but I feel like it's worth it. It's worth the watch. It's so much worth the watch. You know, to have these gentlemen share their story, so impactful. And like I said, I'm grateful for you guys. We really are. Really grateful for you guys for the impact you guys are doing on a day in and day out basis. Like continue to share your inner light, and you know, continue to share your story, and continue to live in the presence of God.
Thank you.
All right, thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. And thank you guys for watching.